This is a 2001 Seadoo XP with a 951cc engine. The problem with two-stroke engines, if you don't use them for a while, you gotta make sure you put gas treatment in. I went maybe a little more than 2 weeks one time, and next you know, one of my carburetors is plugged up. Went online, went on YouTube to figure out how to remove the carburetors. Couldn't find anything, so I had to figure it out on my own. So I'm going to try to help you out, try to figure this out. The first thing I thought to do was take the exhaust pipe off, because the carburetors are right underneath the exhaust pipe. Well, that didn't work. So because you got 1, 2, 3, and the fourth nut. These are Allens. These are 8mm Allens. But that fourth one is a nut, and that is buried. You can't get to it unless you take the carburetors out. So then I realized, well, you can get the carburetors out without taking the pipe off. And actually, it's pretty easy. So the first thing you can do is we're going to take the air plenum off. There's a 10mm nut and bolts. You take that off, take the rubber off, and then there's one on each side. And these just pull right out. They just pull right out of the plenum, which leaves this piece. This is the plenum. There's a clip on the carburetor. So pop that up, and you're going to slide this out. And what you're going to do is just get your oil reservoir, and you can move it out of the way, lift it up. You don't have to disconnect anything from the oil reservoir. And you're able to slide that air plenum up and out. So make sure you just get the oil reservoir out of the way, and the air plenum will get up and out, and you just move that out of the way. Then that gives you access to there's 4 bolts, and they're right in there. There's 1, 2, and let's see, where's 3, 4. So what you got to do is something long and thin. It's a 6mm. So you can either take an Allen wrench, cut it off, use a socket on that, but I happen to have a thin 6mm socket with an extension. And I'm able to get that in there and loosen the bolts. Some of them can't come out. Don't worry about that. Just loosen them all the way out, and try to get that carburetor loose. The next step, there are 3 hoses. There's a hose here. I call that the top hose, middle hose, and then there's a bottom hose. Now the bottom hose is going to be easier to take off once you get the carburetor part way out. And I end up labeling my hoses. There's T for top, M for middle, and B for bottom. So just take the top and the middle off for the time being. And then the next step is to take off the throttle cable. This is the throttle cable. Looks like that. So this an Allen, 2mm Allen for each carburetor. So that's 2mm right there. Just loosen that. The problem with this one is the pipe's in the way. Let's see. Yeah, the pipe's in the way. And I'll try not to drop anything. Everything's stainless, and the magnet won't pick it up. So what I did is there's a 10mm nut holding this on. I took that off and lifted it up, and that turned it up, and that gave me access to that 2mm Allen nut. And then once you loosen that, the cable will slide out. You loosen these nuts, take this nut all the way off, and there's a slot. Let's see. There's a slot right there that allows you to lift the whole cable assembly up and out of the way. So now you've got these two hoses off, you got the throttle assembly off. Now you can pull the carburetor up and off to the side here, and there's slack on this bottom hose to get it up and out. And then the next thing, the step is, there is a cable here. That's 10mm right there. Before you can do that, I put a 12mm on this to turn it to get the end of that cable out of there. So the best way to do this is to lift the carburetor out and turn it, get it up on its side. There's slack to do this. And turn this wheel, pull this the end of the cable off, and then when you go to put it back together, do the same thing. Put it back on and put this hose on before you put the carburetor back into place. So then once you take that off, take this hose off. I labeled that bottom, and then everything came out, and there's my carburetor ready for a rebuild. And just put everything back in place. Remember, don't drop these bolts. They're stainless and the magnets won't pick them up. I gotta go search for one right now. That's it.